The Discovery. Xyloth Zarn slouched at her station, her sensory tendrils drooping listlessly over the console. Another uneventful shift of staring into the void, straining to detect any hint of something interesting amidst the endless darkness, beginning to wonder if she had made a terrible mistake in volunteering for a deep space exploration mission. The celestial nomad drifted along the fringes of uncharted space, so far from any inhabited system that even the most detailed star charts showed only vague approximations. Xyloth understood the importance of pushing the boundaries of the known, but during long, lonely watches like this, it was hard to maintain her enthusiasm. A sudden trill from the console snapped Xyloth out of her daze. At first she thought she had imagined it, her boredom-addled mind playing tricks on her. But there it was again, a faint but unmistakable signal, utterly unlike any of the usual background noise of space. Xyloth sprang into action, her tendrils flying over the controls as she hurried to isolate and analyze the anomaly. Excitement coursed through her as the readings began to pour in. There was no natural explanation for a signal with these properties. It had to be artificial, and if artificial, then intelligent. She was so engrossed in the data that she didn't even hear Captain Zorax Ven enter the bridge behind her. Only when he loomed over her shoulder did she notice his presence, nearly tumbling out of her chair in surprise. "Report, Ensign Zarn," the captain growled, his crest flushing crimson with impatience. "The ship's mind said you found something very exciting. I hope for your sake that it's more than another false alarm." Xyloth collected herself and transferred her findings to the main view screen. As the captain studied the signal analysis, she saw his expression shift from annoyance to intrigue to outright disbelief. "If these readings are accurate," he muttered, "then this signal matches the profile of." He shook his head. "But that's impossible. They're a myth. Mere stories from the dawn of space travel." Xyloth knew exactly what he was talking about. Every spacefaring species had ancient legends of a mysterious race known as humans, allegedly hailing from an improbable death world, filled with hazards that would doom most life. Humans were said to be uncannily resilient and ingenious, always seeking to reshape their environment to their will. Many dismissed such stories as the fanciful speculations of primitive minds, projecting their hopes and fears onto an imaginary other. After all, no concrete evidence of human existence had ever been found. They made for entertaining tales to share over a flickering plasma hearth, but surely nothing more. And yet now they had a signal that fit the theoretical models of human technology almost perfectly. Xyloth felt a thrill race through her at the implications. If humans were real, and this signal led to them, it would be the discovery of a lifetime. The answer to an age-old question that had captured the imagination of generations. The captain clearly recognized the gravity of the situation as well. He straightened, his crest smoothing back to a pensive blue. "Ensign Zarn, I want a full analysis of that signal on my desk within the cycle. Cross-reference every fragment of human lore in our databases." He turned to go, then paused. "And not a word to anyone else aboard for now. If this turns out to be another Coraxian wild goose chase, I don't want to have to deal with a ship full of disappointed scientists and anthropologists." "Understood, sir," Xyloth replied smartly. But as the captain left and she bent over her console once more, she couldn't suppress a shiver of anticipation. Myths and legends were about to collide with cold, hard data. And if the stories held even a grain of truth, then the universe might be on the cusp of getting a whole lot bigger. As word of the discovery spread through the ship, the captain's orders swiftly crumbling beneath the crew's wild curiosity, the halls buzzed with barely contained commotion. Was it a glitch, a stray echo from some unknown species? Or could it really be what many hardly dared to imagine? The first sign of the mythical humans. Everyone from the lowliest waste reclamation drone to the most esteemed theoretical minds aboard found themselves swept up in the fever of speculation. The ship's data cores hummed with activity as researchers combed through every scrap of human lore they could unearth. Glimpses of a contradictory picture began to emerge. Stories painting humans as noble explorers, seeking out new life and new civilizations. Others portraying them as bloodthirsty conquerors, hungry to impose their will upon the cosmos. Scientists who reshaped worlds and philosophers who pondered the biggest questions. Dreamers and pragmatists, builders and destroyers. Through it all, one thread remained constant. Humans were always pushing the boundaries, venturing where others feared to go, attempting feats others deemed impossible, carving their own path through the unforgiving universe with a unique blend of determination, adaptability, and sheer audacity. Many aboard scoffed at such grandiose tales. An entertaining diversion, certainly, but hardly a basis for serious xenological study. The stories were too outlandish, too extreme. A species that thrived amidst such chaos could not possibly exist, at least not for long. The galaxy had a way of pruning such reckless upstarts before they could spread too far. And yet, the signal remained an unyielding fact. Someone or something had created it. Technology far beyond anything they had encountered, carrying a message they had yet to decode, an answer to a question they had never quite dared to ask. In the midst of the mounting frenzy, Xyloth found herself called to the captain's ready room. She entered with a mix of trepidation and barely contained excitement, hoping her diligence had borne fruit. Captain Venn stood before a holographic star map. The signal's coordinates a blinking beacon amidst the web of known space. He turned as Xyloth approached, his face an inscrutable mask. "I've gone over your analysis," he said without preamble, "as well as the reports from every department remotely relevant to the matter." A beat of silence. "I don't say this lightly, Ensign, but I believe you may be onto something historic." Xyloth struggled to maintain her composure even as her heart leaped. The captain's endorsement, even a tentative one, meant more than a cycle's worth of breathless rumors. However, Venn continued, "I will not risk this ship and crew on a wild Bizak chase, not without more concrete proof." He fixed Xyloth with a penetrating stare. "I'm assembling a delegation to investigate the signal's origin, representatives from disciplines across the ship, and I want you to lead them." For an instant, Xyloth forgot to breathe. "Me, sir?" "Your discovery, your mission," the captain said firmly. "But I expect you to handle it with the utmost professionalism and objectivity. Let the science guide you, not the myths." "Understood." Xyloth nodded, tendrils quivering with barely suppressed joy and apprehension. "I won't let you down, Captain. We'll get to the bottom of this signal, and maybe finally learn the truth about humans." Captain Venn's expression softened a fraction. "I hope you do, Ensign. For all our sakes." He turned back to the star map, the signal pulsing like a beacon, guiding them into the unknown. "Because if humans are real, then the universe is about to get a whole lot more interesting, and we'd best be ready for it." The debate. As the celestial nomad sped towards the coordinates of the mysterious signal, the entire galaxy buzzed with rumors of the discovery. Frenzied reports leaked out despite the best efforts of the authorities, each more sensational than the last. Some claimed it was all an elaborate hoax, a bid for attention by a fading species desperate to recapture its former glory. Others whispered of a derelict alien craft, a long-dead civilization's last gasp drifting through the void. And more than a few wondered if it was a trap, a lure set by some unknown enemy to ensnare the unwary. But by far the most popular theory, the one that set even the most jaded spaceport abuzz with excitement and trepidation, was that the signal represented the first genuine proof of the legendary humans, the mythical beings who had captivated imaginations since the dawn of spaceflight, now seemingly poised to step out of legend and into reality. In the halls of power and the ivory towers of academia, the debate raged with a special intensity. Experts who had built entire careers on deconstructing human myths now found themselves facing the unsettling prospect that their life's work might be upended overnight. "Preposterous," scoffed Dr. Zartix Volux, the galaxy's foremost authority on comparative mythography. Humans are a classic example of convergent fictionalization. Disparate cultures conjuring up similar stories to fulfill basic narrative needs. To suggest they might have a basis in fact is to invite ridicule. But others were not so quick to dismiss the possibility. For all our advances, the universe remains a vast and mysterious place, countered Professor Zalaksa Kerr, a renowned xenoanthropologist. To assume we know all there is to know, based on our limited understanding, is the height of arrogance. If humans are real, it would force us to reevaluate everything we thought we understood about the evolution of intelligence. As the arguments grew more heated, the Galactic Council, the governing body for the loose confederation of spacefaring species, found itself under increasing pressure to take action. Some called for an immediate military response, fearing that contact with an unknown and potentially hostile species could spell disaster. Others demanded a scientific expedition, eager to unravel the secrets that the signal might hold. In the end, the Council settled on a compromise. A small, heavily vetted delegation would be dispatched to investigate, with a mandate to observe and report back, but not to engage unless absolutely necessary. The team would be led by some of the galaxy's brightest minds, and one very nervous Xyloth Zarn, still reeling from her sudden thrust into the heart of history. As she stood on the observation deck, watching the stars blur past, Xyloth couldn't shake the feeling that she was living in a dream. A mere cycle ago, she had been just another cog in the vast machine of space exploration, content to spend her days staring into the void. Now she found herself at the center of a maelstrom, bearing the weight of the galaxy's hopes and fears on her slender shoulders. Her reverie was broken by the arrival of Dr. Vortinix Klum, the delegation's lead anthropologist. The elderly Zorlian shuffled to her side, his eye stalks swiveling to take in the view. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" he mused. "To think that somewhere out there, amidst all that emptiness, we might find the answer to one of the oldest questions our species has ever asked." Xyloth nodded, not trusting herself to speak. The enormity of their mission, and the consequences of failure, weighed heavily on her mind. Dr. Klum seemed to sense her unease. "I know it's a lot to take in," he said gently. "But remember, you're not alone in this. You have some of the finest minds in the galaxy at your side. Whatever we find out there, we'll face it together." Xyloth managed a grateful smile. "Thank you, Doctor. I just hope we're ready for what we might discover." The anthropologist's eye stalks twinkled with a hint of mischief. "My dear Ensign, if there's one thing I've learned in all my years of studying the unknown, it's that we're never truly ready. But that's what makes it so exciting, don't you think?" With that, he turned and shuffled away, leaving Xyloth alone with her thoughts once more. She gazed out at the sea of stars, each one a reminder of the vast and wondrous universe they inhabited. A universe that might soon be forever changed if the stories of humans proved to be more than mere myth. But as the ship hurtled onwards, racing towards a rendezvous with destiny, Xyloth couldn't shake the nagging sense that they were all in for far more than they bargained for, that the legends of humans, for all their outlandish glory, might only scratch the surface of the truth that awaited them. And deep in her core, a small primal part of her wondered if they were ready to face that truth, or if, like so many before them, they would find themselves swept away by the tides of history, forever altered by the encounter to come. The journey. As the delegation's ship, the intrepid Seeker, plunged into uncharted space, Xyloth found herself consumed by the preparations for the mission ahead. There were endless meetings to attend, reports to file, and contingency plans to draft for every imaginable scenario. But even amidst the bustle and chaos, she couldn't escape the growing sense of unease that seemed to permeate the ship. The crew, handpicked for their expertise and discretion, went about their duties with a grim determination, as if steeling themselves for an ordeal they could scarcely imagine. Xyloth couldn't blame them. The further they ventured from known space, the more she felt the weight of the unknown pressing in on them from all sides. Every star was a question mark, every silence a riddle waiting to be unraveled. And then there were the dreams. Ever since they had set out on their journey, Xyloth's sleep had been haunted by strange and unsettling visions. She saw towering cities of glass and steel, vast machines that dwarfed the mightiest ships of her own civilization. She heard the roar of engines that could tear the fabric of space itself, and the whispers of voices that spoke in tongues she could not comprehend. But worst of all were the figures that loomed out of the shadows of her mind, tall and bipedal, with faces that seemed at once alien and strangely familiar. They moved with a purpose and intensity that both terrified and thrilled her, their eyes gleaming with a fire that seemed to burn through the very core of her being. Xyloth knew they were only dreams, figments of an imagination overstimulated by the weight of their mission, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that they were somehow connected to the signal they were chasing, that the humans of legend were reaching out to her across the vast gulf of space and time, calling her to some unknown destiny. She confided these fears to Dr. Klum, hoping that the wise old anthropologist might have some insight to offer. But to her surprise, the Zorlian merely chuckled and shook his head. "My dear ensign," he said, his eye stalks twinkling with amusement, "you are not the first to be haunted by the specter of humanity. For generations, the greatest minds of our galaxy have grappled with the question of their existence and the implications of their potential reality." He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Some say that the humans are a test, set before us by the universe itself, a challenge to be overcome, a riddle to be solved. Others believe they are a warning, a cautionary tale of the dangers of unbridled ambition and reckless curiosity." Xyloth frowned, her tendrils twitching with unease. "And what do you believe, Doctor?" Dr. Klum's expression grew thoughtful. "I believe," he said slowly, "that the truth is likely far stranger and more wondrous than anything we can imagine, and that the only way to know for certain is to press on, to follow this signal to its source and face whatever lies at the end of our journey." Xyloth nodded, feeling the surge of determination wash over her. "Then that's what we'll do," she said firmly. "We'll see this through, no matter where it leads us." And so the intrepid seeker pushed onwards, delving deeper into the uncharted reaches of space. They followed the trail of clues left by the signal, each new discovery leading them further down a path that seemed to twist and turn with every passing moment. There were anomalies that defied explanation, phenomena that challenged everything they thought they knew about the workings of the universe, strange gravitational fluctuations that sent the ship spinning off course, only to right itself just as suddenly. Bursts of radiation that seemed to carry within them the echoes of long-lost civilizations, their messages tantalizingly out of reach. And through it all, the dreams continued to haunt Xyloth, growing ever more vivid and unsettling with each passing night. She saw battles fought on a scale that beggared belief, armies clashing across the stars in a war that had raged since time immemorial. She heard the cries of the dying and the triumphant roars of the victorious, the sounds of a species pushed to the brink of annihilation, and emerging stronger and more determined than ever before. But even as the visions threatened to overwhelm her, Xyloth clung to the belief that they were leading her towards something greater, a truth that had been hidden from the galaxy for far too long. And as the intrepid seeker drew ever closer to its destination, she knew that whatever awaited them at the end of their journey, they would face it together, a band of explorers united by a common purpose, ready to confront the greatest mystery of their age. The bridge was a hive of activity as they dropped out of hyperspace, the view screen filled with the swirling clouds of a nebula unlike any Xyloth had ever seen. It shimmered with an otherworldly beauty, shot through with veins of pulsing energy that seemed to beckon them forward. "Sensors are picking up a planet at the heart of the nebula," the navigator reported, his voice tight with tension. "Class M, with an atmosphere and gravity well consistent with our projections for a human homeworld." Xyloth felt her heart skip a beat. Could this be it? The long-sought cradle of humanity, hidden away in a corner of the universe that had never been explored. She turned to Dr. Klum, who was staring at the view screen with an expression of rapt wonder. "What do you think, Doctor?" she asked, almost afraid to hear the answer. Could this be the place we've been searching for? The anthropologist turned to her, his eyes shining with a light she had never seen before. I think, he said softly, that we are about to find out. And as the intrepid seeker plunged into the heart of the nebula, Xyloth knew that whatever lay ahead, they would meet it head-on. For the sake of their mission, for the sake of their galaxy, and for the sake of the truth that had eluded them for so long. The encounter. As the intrepid seeker glided into orbit around the mysterious planet, Xyloth felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through her. This was the moment they had been working towards for so long, the chance to finally unravel the enigma of humanity and learn the truth behind the legends. The initial scans of the surface revealed a world unlike any they had encountered before. Vast cities sprawled across the continents, their towering spires and gleaming domes a testament to a level of technological advancement that left the crew in awe. The planet's infrastructure was a marvel of engineering, with networks of roads, bridges, and tunnels spanning the globe in a dizzying web of connectivity. But even more remarkable were the signs of life that the sensors detected. The planet was teeming with activity, its surface buzzing with the energy signatures of countless vehicles and machines. And there, amidst the bustle and hum of civilization, were the unmistakable readings of biological entities, millions upon millions of them, clustered in the cities and scattered across the countryside. Incredible, Dr. Clum breathed, his eye stalks practically vibrating with excitement as he pored over the data. The sheer scale of it all, the complexity of their society, it's beyond anything we could have imagined. Xyloth nodded, feeling a sense of humility wash over her. To think that they had once dismissed the stories of humans as mere myths, when all along there had been a civilization out here that put their own to shame. But even as they marveled at the wonders before them, a new challenge presented itself. How were they to make contact with these humans? What protocols should they follow? What precautions should they take? The question was answered for them a moment later when the communications console lit up with an incoming transmission. Xyloth felt her tendrils go rigid with shock as a voice filled the bridge, a voice that was unmistakably, impossibly human. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Nera Patul of the Terran starship Endeavor. We have you on our scopes and have been monitoring your approach. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. For a moment, the bridge was silent, the crew too stunned to respond. Then Dr. Clum stepped forward, his voice steady and calm as he replied. Greetings, Captain Patul. I am Dr. Vortinix Clum, leading a delegation from the Galactic Council. We come in peace, seeking to make contact with your people and learn more about your civilization. There was a pause, and then the human voice spoke again, this time with a hint of amusement. Well, Dr. Clum, you've certainly come to the right place. We've been watching your progress for some time now, and we've been eagerly awaiting this moment. Xyloth felt a thrill of excitement run through her. The humans had been expecting them. How was that possible? But before she could ponder the question further, Captain Patul spoke again. We invite you to come aboard our vessel so that we may meet face to face and begin what I hope will be a long and fruitful dialogue between our peoples. Dr. Clum glanced around at the crew, his expression one of barely contained elation. We would be honored, Captain. Thank you for your invitation. And so, with a sense of history unfolding before them, the delegation prepared to embark on the next stage of their journey, a journey that would take them into the heart of human civilization and into a future that none of them could have predicted. As the shuttle docked with the Endeavor, Xyloth felt a sense of nervous anticipation wash over her. She had studied the plans of human ships, marveled at their design and technical specifications, but to actually set foot on one, to meet its crew face to face, it was almost more than she could process. The airlock hissed open, and they stepped out into a brightly lit corridor, their envirosuits hissing and whirring as they adjusted to the unfamiliar atmosphere. And there, waiting to greet them, was a sight that Xyloth knew she would never forget. A group of humans stood before them, tall and proud in their crisp uniforms, their faces alight with curiosity and welcome. They were a diverse lot, with a range of skin tones and features that spoke of a rich and varied genetic heritage. But what struck Zailoth most was the sense of purpose that seemed to radiate from them, a quiet confidence and determination that left her feeling both humbled and inspired. Captain Patel stepped forward, her dark eyes sparkling with warmth, as she extended a hand in greeting. Dr. Klum, Ensign Zarn, and honored guests, welcome aboard the Endeavour. It is my great pleasure to be the first to officially welcome you to the Terran Federation. Dr. Klum took her hand, his own trembling slightly as he shook it. The pleasure is all ours, Captain. To finally meet your people in person, it is a moment we have long dreamed of. Patel smiled, her expression one of understanding and empathy. Believe me, Doctor, the feeling is mutual. We have long known of the other civilizations that share this galaxy with us, and we have longed for the day when we might meet as equals and friends. She gestured for them to follow her, leading them down the corridor and into a spacious conference room. The walls were lined with displays and interfaces, each one a marvel of human ingenuity and design. But what caught Zailoth's eye was the large viewport that dominated one wall, a window onto the stars that seemed to beckon with the promise of infinite possibility. As they took their seats around the table, Captain Patel leaned forward, her expression serious but not unkind. I know you must have many questions, and there is much we have to discuss. But before we begin, I want to make one thing clear. We come to this meeting not as conquerors or colonizers, but as explorers and diplomats. We seek not to impose our will upon the galaxy, but to learn from it, and to share what we have learned in turn. Dr. Klum nodded, his own expression one of gratitude and respect. That is a sentiment we share wholeheartedly, Captain, and we look forward to learning all that we can from your people, about your history, your culture, your achievements and aspirations. Patel's smile returned, warmer than ever, and we look forward to sharing it with you. All of it, the triumphs and the struggles alike. For we know that it is only through understanding and cooperation that we can hope to build a better future for us all. And as the discussions began in earnest, Zailoth felt a sense of hope and wonder wash over her. Here they were, two civilizations from opposite ends of the galaxy, brought together by a shared spirit of curiosity and a desire for knowledge. And though the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, she knew that they would face them together. As partners and friends, united in their quest to unlock the secrets of the universe and chart a course towards a brighter tomorrow. The revelation. As the talks continued, Zailoth found herself marveling at the depth and breadth of human knowledge. They spoke of their history, of the long and winding path that had led them from their humble beginnings on a small blue-green planet to the stars themselves. They spoke of the challenges they had faced along the way, the wars and conflicts, the environmental catastrophes and social upheavals, and of the hard-won wisdom they had gained from each trial. But what struck Zailoth most was the sheer resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. No matter how great the obstacle, no matter how daunting the odds, they had always found a way to overcome, to persevere, to reach for a better future. It was a trait that she had seen hints of in the old stories, but to witness it firsthand, to see the fire that burned in their eyes, and the determination that drove them forward, it was truly awe-inspiring. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, the delegation found themselves immersed in a world of wonders. They toured the great cities of Earth, marveling at the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets, the museums and galleries that housed the treasures of human art and culture. They visited the colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, where hardy pioneers were carving out new lives on the frontiers of space. And they journeyed to the far reaches of the Federation, meeting with the leaders of a dozen worlds and learning of the incredible diversity and vitality of human civilization. Through it all, Dr. Klum and Captain Patel worked tirelessly to forge a bond of understanding and cooperation between their peoples. They negotiated treaties and trade agreements, exchanged scientific knowledge and cultural insights, and laid the groundwork for a new era of peaceful coexistence and mutual benefit. And as the news of their historic encounter spread throughout the galaxy, Xyloth watched in amazement as the old myths and legends began to crumble away, replaced by a new understanding of humanity and its place in the cosmos. Species that had once dismissed humans as primitives or savages now clamored to establish ties with the Federation, eager to learn from its wisdom and share in its bounty. And those few who still clung to the old prejudices and fears found themselves increasingly isolated and marginalized, relics of a bygone age that was rapidly fading into memory. For Xyloth, it was a time of profound personal growth and transformation as well. Working alongside the humans, she found herself challenged and inspired in ways she had never imagined possible. She learned to think in new ways, to question old assumptions, and embrace new possibilities. And she discovered within herself a strength and courage she had never known she possessed. A fire that burned just as brightly as any human's, driving her to push beyond her limits and reach for the stars. As the time came for the delegation to return home, Xyloth found herself filled with a bittersweet mixture of excitement and sorrow. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, that there would be many challenges and obstacles to overcome as their peoples learned to live and work together. But she also knew that they had taken the first crucial steps on a journey that would change the galaxy forever, and that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, united by the bonds of friendship and understanding that they had forged. As she stood on the observation deck of the intrepid seeker, watching the blue-green orb of Earth recede into the distance, Xyloth felt a sense of hope and possibility wash over her. The humans had shown her a glimpse of a future she had never dared to dream of, a future where the old barriers of fear and ignorance had been swept away, replaced by a new spirit of cooperation and discovery. And she knew that it was a future worth fighting for, worth dedicating her life to, as so many humans had done before her. Dr. Clum stepped up beside her, his own expression one of quiet contemplation. "It's quite a sight, isn't it?" he murmured, his eye stalks fixed on the vanishing planet. "To think that a species that started out on such a small, fragile world could have come so far, achieved so much." Xyloth nodded, feeling a lump form in her throat. "They're an inspiration to us all," she said softly. "A reminder of what's possible when we dare to dream big and never give up." The old Zorlian chuckled, his eyes twinkling with warmth and wisdom. "Indeed they are, my dear Xyloth. Indeed they are." He placed a gnarled hand on her shoulder, giving it a gentle squeeze. "And I have a feeling that this is only the beginning, that the story of humanity and the galaxy is one that will be told for generations to come." Xyloth smiled, feeling the surge of emotion wash over her. "I hope so, Dr. Clum. I truly hope so." And as the ship leaped into hyperspace, carrying them back to a galaxy forever changed by their encounter, she knew that she would spend the rest of her life working to make that story a reality, to build the kind of future that the humans had shown her was possible, and to inspire others to do the same. For she had seen the truth behind the legends, and she knew that it was a truth worth fighting for, now and always. The humans had taught her that the universe was a vast and wondrous place, filled with endless possibilities and untold wonders. And she was determined to spend the rest of her days exploring those possibilities and sharing those wonders with all who would listen. As the stars streaked by outside the viewport, Xyloth felt a sense of peace and purpose settle over her. She knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, that there would be many challenges and setbacks along the way. But she also knew that she was not alone, that she was part of something greater than herself, a community of explorers and dreamers united by a common vision of a better tomorrow. And with that knowledge burning bright within her, she turned her gaze towards the future, towards the endless expanse of space and time that lay before them, waiting to be discovered and understood. For she knew that this was only the beginning, the first steps on a journey that would take them to the very edges of the universe and beyond. And as the intrepid seeker sailed on through the star-strewn void, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of two civilizations, united by a shared destiny. Xyloth felt a sense of excitement and wonder fill her heart. The future was waiting, and she could hardly wait to see what it had in store.